the world. But how did it become so famous? Well, when it first started out, it was just an ordinary looking painting like it is. I mean, not much going on there. But then it was stolen and hid in a dusty old box in somebody's small apartment. So the police went looking for it. They put the picture on the cover of every newspaper in the entire country. Everybody became fascinated by the Mona Lisa and the mystery of where it could possibly be. After 2 years, they finally caught the thief and were able to return the painting to the museum, where it's now viewed by over 50,000 people every single day. Without the misfortune of its disappearance, the Mona Lisa would never have the fame that it does today. This is very similar to the story of Simon. Simon lived in northern Africa, and he decided to walk all the way to Jerusalem for the Passover feast. But with a journey that long, it would have been impossible for him to know exactly when he would arrive in Jerusalem. An annoying rock stuck in his sandal or a stop for an extra snack would have meant he would arrive later. But right when he arrived in Jerusalem, he ran into a large crowd of people, a big procession with loud yelling and screaming and wailing, and so he decided to make his way to the front of the crowd to see what was going on. And that's when he saw Jesus collapse under the weight of the cross. Jesus was battered and broken. He was covered from head to toe in blood. He was so beaten that he did not have the physical strength to keep going and to finish the plan of salvation. But through Simon, Christ's victory was assured. Simon was forced to carry the cross by the Romans. He was forced to share in the humiliation of a condemned criminal. People spat on him, made fun of him, called him all kinds of names. And to make things worse, by having to carry the cross, he could no longer even participate in the festival that he walked all the way from northern Africa to participate in. All of this just because of some bad luck. But because of Simon, Jesus was able to finish the plan of salvation. As Simon carried the cross for Jesus, Jesus walked beside him, carrying the weight of the world. The soldier who stole Simon and forced him to carry the cross meant to do him no favor, meant to ruin his day. But because of the bad luck of being forced to carry the cross, Simon received the greatest honor of his entire life, getting to walk with Jesus. Just as the Mona Lisa was stolen from the museum and hid in a dusty old box, it can sometimes feel like bad luck steals us away from our normal, comfortable lives and leaves us uncared for and broken and humiliated. But the Mona Lisa, because of it being stolen, that's the reason it became so famous. So God can use your pain and your bad luck and your misfortune to open your eyes to the care that God has for you. Simon's story shows us that God isn't mad at you. God isn't the one who caused your pain, but he is actively, right now, using that pain in your life to bring about eternal goodness for you. So I want you to remember this short phrase: your cross leads to Christ. Your cross leads to Christ. Your pain leads to Christ. Your suffering leads to Christ. The burden and the shame that you bear leads you to Christ. Just as the situation was out of Simon's control, he couldn't control what was going on. There are so many moments in our lives where we feel out of control. Maybe a family member, a loved one dies. You can't control that. Maybe you get sick. You can't really control when you get sick. Maybe it's how your friends treat you. Maybe it's the state of the world that we live in today. We can't control what goes on. And we feel like we're forced to carry this cross, this burden that we didn't choose. We didn't choose to carry it. But God is walking with you as you carry that cross. God is using that cross, using that burden to lead you to Him. Because ultimately, God is in control. God is in control. Romans 8:28 says, "And we know that all things work together for good, for those who love God and to those who are called according to His purpose."